Brett Allen here. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Today we have a very special guest. I'm excited. This has been a conversation we've been in the works on and working on for a while. We're chatting with actress Kate Flannery. You might recognize her from The Office for 9 seasons and a couple other things, Dancing with the Stars. And this holiday season, she's going to be on tour with her cabaret partner, the great Jane Lynch, performing songs from their hit holiday album, A Swingin' Little Christmas. Kate, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Brett. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited. Good. So first of all, it's hard to believe that we're already talking Christmas. I mean, we haven't even gotten through Thanksgiving yet. We just finished Halloween. How are things for you? Let's start with, how do you spend your holidays typically? Are you going to be traveling for most of it with the tour? What's going on in your world?
We'll be traveling in early December, but by Christmas, I'll get to spend it with my family in Philadelphia, my dad. Yeah, we always loved Christmas in our house. And in fact, growing up, we always did a Christmas show. It was kind of a hostage situation because people really couldn't leave. It was too cold out. But it's really fun to get to bring in the spirit. And we have an amazing jazz band, the Tony Guerrero Quintet, who plays with us. And it's a labor of love. It's really the best.
Yeah, I can imagine. So when people come to watch, what can they expect? There's a little bit of comedy, like a variety show type of experience?
Well, it's a concert. It's a Christmas concert, but there's a lot of comedy in it. So don't feel like... Don't be worried. We're not, it's not a bait and switch. You're going to know who we are. You're going to feel comfortable right away. And some of the music is actually really good. We have, Tony Guerrero is an amazing arranger and amazing musician. And then Tim Davis, who was the vocal arranger on Glee, he tours with us as well for our Christmas show. And he sings a third part. And it's really fun.
Yeah. And you have a band too, which is great. I'm very excited about this. I think it's fun because I'm assuming, most people would connect you with The Office, obviously, and Jane. Well, there's a lot of different things. Probably Glee would be a big thing. So right. When people come to watch you, I don't know, I know at least like if you go see a comedian or somebody or a musician, and generally speaking, you kind of have like an idea of what to expect, but then when
it's a little like Sylvester and Meredith, just a little bit. It's sometimes I feel like Jane's like the nun knocking me on the knuckles, cracking my knuckles, and I'm like the sheepdog knocking everything down. So we have a great time. We have great chemistry, and some of the music is actually pretty. I mean, I used to tell punchlines at the end of a beautiful song because I was so uncomfortable with just having it be beautiful. I was like, we need a joke. I'm getting over that, but in my old age, I'm just gonna shut up and let some things just be pretty,
That's funny. You're like, just okay. Not everything needs a button on the end of it.
Right.
No, that's funny, but I think people would enjoy that, just generally speaking, because you both are really funny. You're both very talented and a pleasure to watch. So I imagine, how many cities are you going to be visiting, or where all are you going to be going for this?
This tour, we're doing 4 cities. No, 5 cities, sorry. And in general, we're usually a little more ambitious. Last year, I think we did 10 or 12, but it's just every year is a little bit different. And I just feel lucky. I feel like every place we go is decked out in Christmas already. So you feel like you're so in the spirit. It's fantastic. So,
I love it. Yeah, that's very interesting. So obviously, your career has been very huge. I mean, you've done so many great things, of course, Dancing with the Stars, you've got the tour, you've got The Office. Where did the storytelling journey begin for you, Kate? Like, where was that moment where you sort of became interested in this and knew that it was something you wanted to pursue?
Well, I had wanted to pursue it since I was a kid, but my mom was appropriately protective. She didn't let me act until I was a senior in high school. I worked at a dinner theater and a show. I did like 8 shows a week in Bye Bye Birdie in Philadelphia at Riverfront Dinner Theater. And I loved it. And it was great. But it was really hard to do with school. And I realized like my mom did me a favor, because every time I work with a former child actor, I feel like, they didn't have the room and the freedom to reinvent themselves or I don't know. I just think they had a very limited lane that they stayed in, and I got to kind of veer all over the place and then land in my lane.
Yeah, that's lovely. And so was The Office really like the big hit for you when
Oh
you
yeah. I
okay.
had, I knew Steve Carell from Second City, but I kind of like to say Steve was a senior when I was a freshman when I got hired to the touring company. But I have to say, like, my years in Chicago were so formative. My aunt gave me a ticket to check out Second City. She lived in Chicago, and I could stay with her, and it completely changed my life. The first night I went to Second City, I realized that Jane Lynch was on stage understudying for Bonnie Hunt. It was just like there were so many people that they were actually in that room the first night I went there. I learned later that would be pivotal in the beginning of my career and even later in my career. So yeah, it's Chicago is a super magical place, and I worked with Joey Soloway. We did a show called Miss Vagina Pageant and the show The Real Life Brady Bunch. I also worked at the Annoyance Theater as well as Second City. So I had some really fun, interesting experiences there, and toured for a long time. And I just there's a lot of things that didn't happen. I was up for SNL and didn't get it, but I feel like despite my late bloomer issues, everything happened right on time for me.
Yeah, well, you've had a very successful career. I imagine when people talk to you, they ask you about The Office all the time. Just as a personal point here, does it ever get obnoxious for you when
No, luckily I had a great time for 9 years. I mean, if I didn't,
okay.
I would be in hell. But luckily, yeah, it was. I mean, it was just every day was so fun because the writing was so amazing. The direction was. I mean, everybody's so talented. You just felt like everybody was at the top of their game and doing something that was really, really new for TV. I mean, now there's a ton of documentary style, talking head moments in comedies, and that didn't happen before us.
No, no. It's interesting that, how people have imitated what you guys have done. Even those little weird camera moves that your team did.
Sure.
It's interesting. I interviewed Greg Daniels 6 months ago or so for his show Upload on Prime Video, and he said something very interesting. He goes, although he had great success with that show, and as much as he's like, this is like a shelf of my career, it always somehow kind of bleeds its way into everything else that he does. I asked him the same question if it ever gets obnoxious. He's like, have you watched Upload Prime? It's like a love story. It's a Jim and Pam type of love story. One last question. Out of all the things that you've done and the moments that you've had in your career, is there anything outside of The Office that you would consider a benchmark or a hallmark that sort of solidified for you just personally as an actor and storyteller, where you kind of just again knew this is something you were meant to do?
Well, for 20 years, I actually just stopped doing my comedy lounge act, The Lampshades, which is a 2-person dying lounge act. And that to me it was always really fun and really interesting. And, when you're writing your own material, you find out right away if you're on the right track. Unfortunately, my comedy partner for The Lampshades is leaving the business and moved away. But I feel like we have 20 years of tons of comedy festivals, tons of shows coming up the ranks with like some really amazing, talented people before they were famous. People like Patton Oswalt and Sarah Silverman, Mark Maron. There was a lot of people we've done shows with, even Bob Odenkirk and David Cross. We got to do their show in Aspen at the Comedy Festival. We were in the Comedy Festival. It's just one of those things where you feel like I felt like I was part of a movement, and also it's just a pleasure to get to do your own stuff and not be edited. Because I mean, no matter how many times you do a great take on a TV show or a movie, it still might get cut. And sometimes it has nothing to do with your performance. It's just how it goes. But when you're live on stage, you're the editor, you're the director, you're the star, and so if it doesn't go well, it's on you. But if it does go well, it's on you. So it's great.
Yeah, I love that you're sort of in charge of your own destiny, so to speak,
Yeah.
as a creative, which is what I like about doing this and just other types of outlets, is because really like no one can cancel you, so to speak,
Yeah,
or,
no,
edit you or whatever. And that has
it's
to feel great as a performer to just have that freedom.
absolutely. Also, I did a show off Broadway. It started in West Hollywood and we went off Broadway. It was a stage production of the movie Valley of the Dolls. I did it with Jackie Beat, who's an amazing drag queen, friend of mine. And we had such a blast. That was what I call like pre-YouTube theater, where, it was kind of the only way to share something was to actually show up and have us like, kind of heighten it, do it. We did it word for word. We did the movie on stage. It was heightened, so it was more for the laughs and the comedy, because that movie is very dramatic. But it was, I'm very proud of playing Neely O'Hara, and it was for me, it was like the first breakout role where I just felt like I just felt like I was definitely on the right track.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I promised your publicist we would have a hard stop. So everybody, please be sure to check out Kate this December on tour with her cabaret partner, the great Jane Lynch, performing songs. We'll put a link in the show notes and bio when this episode goes live. So
go to janelynchofficial.com. You'll find it all.
Perfect. Kate, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brett. Take care. Thanks.
You too.
Bye.